What if you had to choose between two kinds of pain, the slow, daily agony of a bully's torment, or the explosive, permanent consequences of fighting back? This was the choice facing Kesha Williams. They saw a quiet new girl, an easy target to be broken down and humiliated. What they didn't see was the black belt. The only question is, how far would they have to push her before she showed them who she really was? The move from Detroit had been a shock to Kesha's system. Millbrook was a town painted in shades of beige, pristine, orderly, and suffocatingly quiet. It was a world away from the grit and energy she knew. At Millbrook High, she became a ghost in the hallways, a silent observer in a sea of faces that barely registered her existence. She didn't want trouble. She just wanted to get her diploma and move on, but trouble, in the form of Derek Morrison, found her anyway. It started in the cafeteria. Derek, a boy who wore his family's influence like a crown, cornered her. He didn't ask for friendship. He demanded a welcome fee. Protection money. Keisha looked him in his cold blue eyes and gave him a simple, quiet answer that would ignite a war. I don't pay at all. Derek wasn't used to the word no. The harassment that followed was systematic, a campaign of psychological warfare designed to isolate and break her. The first attack wasn't with a fist, but with a piece of gum meticulously jammed into her locker's keyhole. Then came the whispers, the mocking laughter, a stolen notebook held aloft in the hallway like a trophy as her private thoughts were read aloud. Each act was a calculated test of her resolve. She absorbed it all, her face a mask of calm taught to her by 8 years of mixed martial arts training. Never show weakness, her master used to say, but never look for trouble. She endured, hoping they would eventually tire of their game. They didn't. They escalated. The breaking point arrived in the suffocating silence of 8th period study hall. Derek stood up, a smug grin on his face, and from a small Bluetooth speaker, Kesha's own voice filled the room. Her thoughtful comments on racial injustice from English class had been twisted, spliced with audio clips to paint her as an angry, hateful outsider. The lie was perfect. The humiliation was absolute. In that moment, surrounded by the shocked and disgusted faces of her peers, Kesha knew the game had to end. After school, she found Derek and his crew in the parking lot, laughing, celebrating their victory. She dropped her backpack. The sound was a dull thud, a final, definitive period on her silence. She walked towards them, not with anger, but with a chilling sense of purpose. This ends now, she said, her voice clear and steady. Derek laughed. You're outnumbered, he sneered, reaching for her arm. It was his last mistake. The moment his fingers touched her, her training took over. It wasn't a brawl. It was a demonstration. Her movements were water, flowing around his clumsy rage. She didn't throw wild punches. She used his momentum against him, redirecting his force with precise, debilitating strikes to his wrist and solar plexus. His friends lunged, and they were dispatched with the same brutal efficiency, a leg sweep, a sharp elbow, a world of surprise and pain. The fight ended with Derek on the asphalt, defeated and gasping for air. Kesha stood over him, not with triumph, but with a question. Are we done? He was done. But the story was just beginning. Her act of defiance didn't go unnoticed. 2 younger girls, Amber and Jessica, approached her, terrorized by a group of bullies from another school. They didn't ask her to fight for them. They just asked her to stand with them. Kesha agreed. At the bus stop, when the other bullies appeared radiating menace, Kesha once again refused to yield. When they tried to grab Amber, Kesha moved. The confrontation was swift, defensive, and decisive. This time, however, there was a witness. Jessica had been recording the entire thing on her phone. The video went viral. Kesha's story was now everywhere, but it's far from over. This moment of pure courage is exactly what we showcase here at Fable Crypt. If you believe stories like this need to be told, take a second to hit the like button. It helps our channel a great deal and tells us you want more fables of heroes fighting back. But in the shadows, the bullies regrouped. Humiliated and furious, Derek and the others colluded. They couldn't beat her with fists, so they decided to use the system. They went to the police and filed 6 separate, coordinated complaints, weaving a story of unprovoked assault, branding Kesha as a violent predator who attacked innocent students. The system believed them. Kesha was arrested at school. The cold click of the handcuffs felt surreal. One moment she was a student, the next she was a suspect, her freedom stripped away because she had dared to fight back. She thought of her mother, a doctor who healed people, while her daughter was being treated like a criminal for stopping others from getting hurt. This wasn't a fight of fists and feet anymore. It was a battle against a system that seemed designed to protect the powerful. But this time, she wasn't alone. The students she had inspired now rallied for her. Protests erupted. The hashtag Justice for Kesha trended. The community she had defended now rose to defend her. The trial was a spectacle. The prosecution presented Kesha as a menace. Derek took the stand, his voice quivering with false emotion as he painted himself as the victim. But their case, built on a foundation of lies, quickly crumbled under the calm, methodical cross-examination by Kesha's lawyer, Ms. Rodriguez. She presented the evidence, the unedited audio recording of Derek's deception, its raw truth cutting through the courtroom's silence. Then, she played the unedited video of the bus stop incident, showing not a predator, but a protector. She called Jake to the stand. "Mr. Wilson," she began, "you testified that you were a victim of an unprovoked attack, yet security footage from that same day shows you and your friends harassing multiple other students. Were they all unprovoked attacks as well?" Jake stammered, his story unraveling under the weight of his own recorded history. One by one, the students Kesha had protected took the stand, their voices, once silenced by fear, now ringing with truth. The most damning testimony came from Principal Martinez. Subpoenaed by the defense, she reluctantly admitted that numerous harassment reports against Derek and his friends had been filed over the years, and had been systematically ignored. The jury saw the truth not just of the incidents, but of the culture that allowed them to happen. The verdict was a thunderclap. Not guilty on all charges. As the words landed, Derek Morrison's face went pale. He glanced at his father, whose expression had morphed from confident authority to cold fury. The family's reputation, the source of Derek's power, had been shattered in a public courtroom. Perjury charges were no longer a distant threat, but an imminent reality. Justice had been served. The bullies faced legal consequences, their power evaporating into shame. Derek was quietly unenrolled and sent to a military academy 3 states away, his name becoming a cautionary tale. The school, forced to confront its failures, transformed its policies, implementing a zero-tolerance policy that finally had teeth. Kesha's impromptu self-defense lessons became an official, thriving program, empowering hundreds of students to find their own strength. She taught them not just how to block a punch, but how to stand with confidence, how to use their voice, and how to protect one another. The goal, she explained, wasn't to win a fight, but to have the confidence to avoid one. Months later, sitting in that same cafeteria, Kesha read a letter from a girl in another state who had seen her story and started her own self-defense group. She looked around at the students in her own school, laughing, confident and safe, and understood. She had never looked for a fight, but by refusing to run from one, she had changed everything. She had proven that sometimes the only way to find peace is to stand your ground, and that the courage of one can give a voice to thousands. If you want to see more heroes who fought back against the odds, the next 2 fables from our crypt are on your screen right now. Click on one to continue. The journey